God made us. He invented us. As a man invents an engine, a car is made to run on gasoline, and it won't run properly on anything else. Now, God designed the human machine to run on himself. He is the fuel our spirits were designed to burn, or the food our spirits were designed to feed on. There is no other. That is why it is no good asking God to make us happy in our own way, without bothering about religion. God cannot give us happiness and peace apart from himself, because it is not there. There is no such thing. This excerpt is from the book Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. God is attentive to every tear you have shed, to every silent plea you have made. He knows the depth of your suffering and the cries of your heart, and he is by your side, even when you feel most alone. Life can be extremely challenging at times. We all go through moments of exhaustion when our strength seems to fade and our spirits feel low. In these times, it is essential to remember that you are not alone. In Matthew 11, verse 28, it says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." At the height of our battles, it can be difficult to see the light. When the weight of our problems becomes unbearable, it is easy to feel lost and lonely. Lewis says in Mere Christianity that relying on God has to begin all over again every day, as if nothing had yet been done. But in these moments, it is vital to remember a powerful truth. God sees your pain and hears your cry. God's purpose will always prevail, and his timing is always perfect. Therefore, let us trust in his divine timing and purpose, as it says in Lamentations 3:25, 26, "The Lord is good to those whose hope is in him, to the one who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord." In 1 John 3, verse 20, we find that even when our hearts condemn us, God is greater than our hearts and knows everything. So before you lose hope, my dear brother and sister, remember that God is still reigning on his throne. He is Jehovah Nissi, Jehovah Shalom, and he is God with us. Do not lose hope yet. God is aware of your exhaustion. Just be patient and wait for him. At the right moment, the time determined by your Heavenly Father, you will receive your blessings. Today I will share some essential biblical teachings about waiting on God. So prepare your hearts and minds to embrace this message. One of the most challenging aspects of being a Christian is the patience required to wait for God to answer our prayers. Lewis says in Mere Christianity, "I am sure that God keeps no one waiting unless he sees that it is good for him to wait." Every Christian has experienced this waiting period where it seems that nothing is changing. We often question why God makes us wait. However, I want to assure you that God's timing is impeccable. He is a God of order and precision, as stated in Isaiah 46:10. "I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times. What is still to come, I say. My purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please." He calls a bird of prey from the east, a man for his purpose from a distant land. This theme is repeated multiple times in the Bible. One of the most daunting challenges in life is waiting, especially when it comes to waiting on God. Many of us can relate to this feeling. You've poured out your soul in prayer and wondered, "God, why is it taking so long? Are you listening to me? Have you forgotten me? Do you care?" Maybe you're praying for relief from chronic pain, or for God to touch the heart of someone you love. In Jeremiah 33, verse 3, it says, "Call to me, and I will answer you, and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." Perhaps you are looking for a stable job to support your family, healing for deep emotional scars, restoration of a broken relationship, or the blessing of a life partner. Waiting can be hard, but remember, patience is a virtue. The more you pray, the more it seems there is no answer. You cling to faith and believe with all your heart, but there is no clear sign from God, no indication that He has heard you, no evidence that He is working. All you long for is a sign, any sign. Lord, show me something, anything. And yet, sometimes there is nothing but silence. So what is God doing in these moments? Why does He seem so quiet? Remember the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis. Joseph waited years, enduring betrayal by his brothers, slavery, and imprisonment. But through it all, God was with him, arranging every detail. In Genesis 50:20, Joseph reassured his brothers, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Joseph's journey teaches us that God's timing is impeccable, even when it is not apparent to us. Like Joseph, you may feel that you are trapped in a pit or a prison, waiting for deliverance. But let me reassure you that just because God seems silent, it does not mean He is not there. God is working, even while you wait. Behind the scenes, His goodness, power, provision, and grace are in motion. He is constantly working for your good because of His deep love for you. He is a loving Father with wonderful plans for you. He desires to bless you and see you thrive. So today we will discuss some principles about waiting patiently on God and open our hearts and minds to embrace these crucial principles from the Bible. And Principle 1, God's delays are not God's denials. Lewis says in Mere Christianity, "I am sure that God keeps no one waiting unless He sees that it is good for him to wait. When you get what you want, it is always either something better or something entirely different. What we call asking for God's answer is merely the beginning of the right direction. This is the first move, not the whole." In a world that values immediate results, waiting is often seen as a waste of time. We live in a dynamic, fast-paced society where we demand quick outcomes from technology because our time is precious. Waiting seems counterproductive, as if we are missing opportunities. This period of waiting can trigger anxiety and doubt. We may start to question if something is wrong because waiting contradicts our culture of instant gratification. It is challenging to wait when uncertainty looms over us, when we are unsure of the outcome. Doubt creeps in, and we begin to question if God will come through for us. As doubt takes root, the temptation to take control increases. But here lies the danger. When we try to control things ourselves during the waiting period, things can go very wrong. Scriptures warn us that trying to manage situations on our own can lead to complications. We see this in Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight." However, when we are waiting for what seems like an eternity, when our prayers seem unanswered and time continues to pass, we are tempted to take control. Perhaps you are at this point of desperation today. You have waited, prayed, and trusted, but nothing seems to change. Doubt whispers, "What if?" And before you know it, you are tempted to abandon God, to leave your faith because He did not meet your expectations. But let me ask this: how long does God have before you decide to leave Him? How long before you end your relationship with Him because He did not deliver on your terms? Remember, God operates on His own timeline, not ours. So in the midst of waiting, resist the temptation to take control. Trust in God's perfect timing, even when it seems like time is running out. Keep your faith. Hold on to hope and understand that God is always working, even during the waiting periods. Consider the story of Lazarus in John 11. Mary and Martha sent a message to Jesus that their brother Lazarus was sick, anticipating that Jesus would come and heal him. However, Jesus delayed his visit, resulting in Lazarus' death. When Jesus finally arrived, Mary and Martha were grieving and questioned why Jesus had not come sooner. But Jesus showed that God's delays are not denials. He performed a miraculous resurrection, demonstrating his power over death. Isaiah 55. 8 and 9 serves as a reminder, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." God's perspective surpasses our understanding. He sees the bigger picture and knows what is best for us. So when we encounter delays, let us not lose heart. Instead, let us place our trust in God's wisdom and impeccable timing. Let us have faith that He is orchestrating everything for our benefit, even when it is not visible to us. God's delays are not rejections. They are opportunities for us to strengthen our faith and witness His miraculous power unfolding in our lives. Principle 2. Patience is a virtue. Lewis says in Mere Christianity, "The great thing, if one can, is to stop regarding all the unpleasant things as interruptions of one's own or real life. The truth is, of course, that what one calls the interruptions are precisely one's real life, the life that God is sending day by day. What one calls one's real life is a phantom of one's own imagination. This at least is what I see at moments of insight, but it's hard to remember it all the time. In our lives there are times when it seems like God is delaying His response to our prayers. We pray passionately for healing, for provision, for breakthroughs, but it seems that God is silent. It is natural to feel disappointed, to question if God has forgotten us, or if our prayers are going unheard. Lewis says in Letters to Malcolm, "We must lay before Him what is in us, not what ought to be in us. The prayer preceding all prayers is, may it be the real I who speaks. May it be the real thou that I speak to." We must remember that God's delays are not a sign of His indifference or reluctance to act. Instead, they are opportunities for more significant miracles, for deeper faith, and for His glory to be revealed. Just as Jesus delayed His visit to Lazarus to show His power over death, God's delays in our lives often set the stage for something extraordinary. In a world that values speed and immediate gratification, patience can seem like a forgotten virtue. We are used to fast food, high-speed internet, and instant results. We want things to happen according to our schedule and our plans. However, the reality is that God's timing rarely matches our expectations. Patience is more than just waiting. It is about resilience, persistence, and faith. It is about maintaining hope when situations seem bleak and surrendering our desires to God's perfect plan. The Bible, in James 5, verses 7 and 8, instructs us, "Be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. You too, be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near." This is similar to the farmer who waits patiently for the harvest. We are called to wait patiently for the fulfillment of God's promises. Patience is not a passive state. It is an active choice to trust in God's faithfulness, even when our circumstances are filled with uncertainty. Let's face the truth. Patience is challenging. It is hard when we are dealing with obstacles, when our prayers seem unanswered, and when it feels like time is slipping away. Doubt creeps in, and we are tempted to take control, but rushing God's timing only leads to frustration and disappointment. Instead, let us embrace patience as a virtue, knowing that it fosters resilience and shapes our character, as stated in Romans 5 verses 3 and 4. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. Let us trust in God's impeccable timing, knowing that He is orchestrating everything for our benefit, as Romans 8:28 declares, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. And let us remember that the waiting season is not a waste of time. It is a period of growth, refinement, and preparation for the blessings that God has planned for us. So, in the midst of waiting, let us cultivate patience, knowing that God is faithful and His promises will be fulfilled in His perfect timing. Principle 3. Have faith in God's impeccable timing. In the Screwtape Letters, Lewis says, "The enemy desires that men be concerned with what they do. Our business is to keep them thinking about what will happen to them. The future is, of all things, the least like eternity. It is the most completely temporal part of time, for the past is frozen and no longer flows, and the present is all lit up with eternal rays. Hence the encouragement to direct their minds to the future, making them think about things they can't control, leading to anxiety that can only be fought with faith." The Scriptures guide us to let patience have its perfect work. Patience is not a passive trait. It is cultivated in the waiting room of life. You may not notice any visible change, but rest assured that significant transformations are happening beneath the surface. Patience exercises your spiritual muscles, making you stronger, helping you grow, evolve, and become more resilient. So do not underestimate the waiting periods, and do not be disheartened if things are not progressing as quickly as you hoped. Remember, the longer it takes, the more blessings God has in store for you. When your time comes, when God knows you are ready, the fruits of your patience will be far greater than you could ever imagine. We all have aspirations we are eager to fulfill, challenges we hope to resolve, and the desire to meet the right person. But when our waiting seems longer than anticipated, it is natural to feel discouraged and restless, questioning, when will this finally happen? However, sometimes the delay is not due to God's inaction, but because we are not yet ready for what He has planned. You might feel prepared for what you imagine, but if you could glimpse God's vision, you would understand that you are not yet equipped to handle it. You need more time to mature, evolve, and gain experience. Let's revisit the story of Abraham and Sarah in Genesis 21. God made a promise to Abraham that he would become the father of many nations. However, Abraham was 100 years old, and Sarah was 90 when their son Isaac, the fulfillment of God's promise, was born. Imagine the weight of waiting for a promise for almost 100 years. But God, in His perfect timing, fulfilled His promise. In our lives, we often find ourselves in situations where we eagerly await God's intervention. We pray fervently for breakthroughs, for healing, for provision, for reconciliation. However, it seems that God's timing is different from ours. We may feel impatient, anxious, or even doubtful, questioning whether God hears our prayers or if He will act on our behalf. Think of the wait as a time of preparation, refinement, and growth. Just as Abraham and Sarah faced challenges and obstacles during their waiting period, God used that time to mold them into vessels ready for the fulfillment of His promise. So, my dear friends, let us root our hearts in trust. Let us believe that God is faithful to His word. that he is working behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail according to his perfect plan. Let us wait with anticipation, knowing that when the time is right, God will fulfill what he has promised. As we navigate through this season of waiting, let us cultivate a mindset of gratitude, praise, and worship, acknowledging God's goodness, his sovereignty, and his unwavering love. Indeed, Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6, offers us profound truth. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. This verse encourages us to surrender our timelines, desires, and understanding to God. It invites us to place our absolute trust in his sovereignty, wisdom, and faithfulness. Even when the situation seems bleak, our faith should persist in prayer, even when the answers are delayed, a faith that recognizes that God's ways and timing are superior to ours. His timing is always perfect. Principle 4. Discover tranquility in God's timing. Lewis says, "In the screw-tape letters, men are not angered by mere misfortune, but by misfortunes conceived as injuries. And the sense of injury depends on the feeling that a legitimate claim has been denied. The more claims on life that your patient can be induced to make, the more often he will feel injured and, as a result, ill-tempered. For his mind can be directed to the present sphere of humility and quietness. Once he accepts this, he will find tranquility and a sense of peace." Psalm 46, verse 10, instructs us to be still and know that I am God. This verse highlights the importance of calming our hearts and minds, of pausing amid life's hustle to recognize God's presence and supreme dominion. In this stillness, we discover a peace that transcends understanding and guards our hearts against fear and doubt. Finding serenity in God's timing also involves appreciating the journey of waiting. Instead of perceiving waiting as a time of stagnation or frustration, it should be a time of reflection and deepening our connection with God. Finding tranquility in God's timing is a journey of surrendering control and trusting fully. It is about letting go of our need to control outcomes and embracing the certainty that God's timing is impeccable, even when it doesn't align with our expectations. Philippians 4, verses 6 and 7 offers comforting guidance. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. This passage enlightens us that true peace does not come from having all the answers or controlling every situation. Instead, it comes from surrendering our worries and anxieties to God and finding rest in his supreme dominion. In a world filled with turbulence and unpredictability, finding tranquility in God's timing can be daunting. We may be tempted to worry, doubt, or try to control things on our own. However, genuine peace is achieved by surrendering our fears and anxieties to God and trusting that he is orchestrating everything for our benefit. As we wait with patience and anticipation, our faith is strengthened and our hearts are prepared to embrace the blessings God has planned for us. So let us embark on the journey of discovering tranquility in God's timing. Let us surrender our fears and worries to him, trusting that he is in control and that his timing is always impeccable. And let us find comfort in the assurance that while we wait with patience and anticipation, his peace will guard our hearts and minds, guiding us toward a deeper connection with him. Principle 5. Have faith in God's supreme dominion. Lewis speaks in Mere Christianity. Imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, perhaps, you can understand what he is doing. He is getting the drains right and stopping the leaks in the roof and so on. You knew that those jobs needed doing, and so you are not surprised. But presently, he starts knocking the house about in a way that hurts abominably and does not seem to make sense. What on earth is he up to? The explanation is that he is building quite a different house from the one you thought of, throwing out a new wing here, putting on an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards. You thought you were going to be made into a decent little cottage, but he is building a palace. He intends to come and live in it himself. Proverbs 19 verse 21 clarifies that while a person may have many plans in their mind, it is God's purpose that will prevail. We can devise our own plans, but in the end, it is God's plan that stands. During periods of waiting and uncertainty, it is easy to question God's supreme dominion. We may wonder why certain events are happening, or why our prayers seem unanswered. But in these moments, we must remember that God's ways and thoughts are far superior to ours. We may not always understand his plans, but we can trust that he is orchestrating everything for our benefit. Trusting in God's supreme dominion also implies having faith in his perfect timing. It involves recognizing and yielding to his authority and control over everything. In a world filled with unpredictability and turbulence, placing our trust in God's supreme dominion can provide a sense of comfort and strength. Psalm 103, verse 19, serves as a potent reminder. The Lord has established his throne in heaven, and his kingdom rules over all. This verse powerfully underlines that God is in command, even when situations seem out of our control. His plans are superior, his ways are grander, and his purposes will triumph. Trusting in God's supreme dominion requires that we surrender our desires, our plans, and our will to him. It involves recognizing that he knows what is best for us, even when it is not visible to us. Just as Ecclesiastes 3 verse 11 assures us, he has made everything beautiful in its time. We must remember that God's timing is impeccable, even if it doesn't align with ours. We may become impatient and weary during the wait, but we can have faith that God is faithful to his promises, and his timing is always precise. So let us place our trust in God's supreme dominion, recognizing that he has control over everything. Let us surrender our plans and our will to him, and let us find comfort in knowing that he is orchestrating everything for our benefit. As Romans 8, verse 28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." So, my dear friends, take time to be still and listen to God's voice. In the silence of your heart, you will find your assurance. He is saying, "My child, I see your pain. I hear your cry. Trust in me, and I will carry you. Hold on, for the dawn is coming. Your perseverance will lead to victory, and your faith will be your guiding light. God knows you are tired, but he also knows you are capable of extraordinary things. Keep going. You are never alone. May divine strength and peace fill your heart and soul, guiding you through any challenges that may come. If this principle touched you, express your affirmation by typing "God is always with me" in the comment section below. I proclaim that all the blessings of this prayer are now granted to you in the name of Jesus. Thank you for joining me today. If you found this video meaningful, please like and share it with your friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell for more inspiring content. Have faith, maintain patience, and trust that God is working behind the scenes. Wait on God, for He is faithful. Your pain will not last forever, and your cries will not go unanswered. Trust in His plan, for He is preparing a future filled with hope and joy. God sees your pain and hears your cry. Hold on, for His promises are true, and His love is eternal, is eternal, is eternal, is eternal.
In the tapestry of life, it's often the quiet moments that herald the greatest changes. C.S. Lewis, a profound thinker and storyteller, believed that God doesn't always call to us in the thunder, but whispers in the gentle breeze of our everyday experiences. As we embark on this exploration, let us seek the subtle signs that suggest God is about to change our story. Through the lens of Lewis's insights, we will uncover how these quiet awakenings can lead to profound transformations in our journey with the divine. In the midst of life's relentless march, where days meld into one another under the guise of routine, there lies a hidden invitation to awakening. It is not amidst the clamor of grand revelations that most of us find our turning points, but rather in the quiet corners of our existence, where the mundane meets the mystical. Lewis, with his characteristic blend of wit and wisdom, might suggest that God often chooses the whisper over the whirlwind to capture our attention, to stir the depths of our souls. Consider the gentle nudge of a persistent thought, the recurring echo of a dream not yet fully understood, or the quiet discontent that whispers of realms beyond our grasp. These are not mere figments of our imagination, but are, perhaps, the first threads of a divine tapestry being woven into the fabric of our lives. Lewis would likely argue that our most profound awakenings often arise from the simplest of moments, a sunrise that stirs an unspoken yearning, a line from a book that echoes long in our thoughts, or a conversation that leaves our spirit restless for something more. Awakening, in the Lewisian sense, is the dawning realization that the world we see is but a shadow of a more substantial reality that beckons us. It is the initial stirring of the heart that hints at our role in a grander narrative, a story authored by God Himself. This awakening does not shout from the rooftops, but instead whispers in the silence of our being, inviting us to embark on a journey of discovery and transformation. As we heed these subtle signs, we begin to see our lives not as a series of random events, but as a carefully orchestrated symphony composed by the divine maestro. Each note, each rest, plays a crucial part in the unfolding melody of our existence. The nature of this awakening is not a sudden enlightenment, but a gradual unveiling, where the scales fall from our eyes, and we are invited to see the world, ourselves, and our God in a new light. In embracing these quiet awakenings, we open ourselves to the possibility of change, to the divine plot twists that God weaves into our stories. For it is often in the gentle whisper of God's voice that we find the courage to let go of our old selves and step into the new roles He has written for us in His grand, cosmic play. C.S. Lewis once remarked, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny." It's a poignant reminder that our trials, though fraught with discomfort, are not mere obstacles but crucibles for growth and change. In the shadow of suffering, we find not only the harshness of life, but also the potential for divine transformation. Lewis understood suffering as a megaphone that God uses to rouse a deaf world. It's in our moments of pain and adversity that we are often most receptive to change, most aware of our own fragility, and most open to seeking something beyond ourselves. This receptivity can become the fertile ground from which a new chapter of our story, penned by God, begins to emerge. Consider the biblical story of Joseph, who endured betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment only to rise to a position where he could save nations from famine. His trials were not mere episodes of misfortune, but integral parts of a larger narrative that God was writing. Like Joseph, we may find that our deepest struggles are not detours, but essential pathways to the destiny God has for us. In facing our challenges, we are invited not to despair, but to persevere with the understanding that our current trials may be the very tools God uses to shape us into the characters we need to become for the next scene in our life story. It is through our suffering that we often gain the wisdom, strength, and empathy necessary to embrace the roles God has designed for us. Suffering, then, can be seen as a sign that God is actively working in our lives, pruning us to bear more fruit, as a gardener tends to his plants. The pain of the pruning process is real, but so is the growth that follows. By embracing our hardships with faith and courage, we allow God to transform our trials into triumphs, our pain into purpose. C.S. Lewis famously posited, "If I find in myself desires which nothing in this world can satisfy, the only logical explanation is that I was made for another world." This profound insight lays the foundation for our third topic, the recognition of our deep, unfulfilled longings as signs that we are destined for something greater, something beyond the mere physical realm. Lewis believed that our most profound desires, those that material pleasures cannot quench, are not merely whims of the human condition but echoes of our true home calling to us. These unmet desires, these whispers of something more, serve as indicators that our stories are meant to transcend the confines of this world, pointing towards an eternal narrative crafted by the divine. When we experience moments of unexplained yearning, when beauty, love, or a sense of wonder stir within us an insatiable hunger, we are feeling the pull of eternity on our hearts. These are not moments to be dismissed as fleeting emotions, but to be acknowledged as signs of our participation in a larger, divine story. This longing for more is a beacon, guiding us through the fog of routine and the ephemeral, towards the shores of a deeper spiritual truth. It invites us to explore the possibility that the restlessness we feel is a divine discontent, planted within us to lead us back to God, the source of all fulfillment. In our journey with God, these echoes of eternity are calls to action, urging us to seek out our place in God's grand narrative. They remind us that we are not merely players on a worldly stage, but eternal souls fashioned for an everlasting kingdom. As we attune our hearts to these divine whispers, we open ourselves to the transformative work God wishes to do in and through us. We begin to see our lives not as a series of unconnected events, but as a pilgrimage towards a divine horizon, where every longing finds its fulfillment, and every desire points us back to our Creator. C.S. Lewis had a knack for recognizing the divine in the ordinary, often suggesting that what we perceive as mere coincidences are, in fact, the quiet workings of God in our lives. He famously quipped, "Coincidences are God's way of remaining anonymous," hinting at the subtle manner in which the divine orchestration unfolds around us. This topic delves into the concept of providence and happy coincidences, exploring how these unexpected encounters and seemingly random events might actually be signposts that God is actively involved in our narrative, gently steering us toward His intended plot twists. Consider the serendipitous meetings that alter the course of our lives, the unforeseen opportunities that arise just when we need them, or the inexplicable timing of events that, in hindsight, fit together too perfectly to be mere chance. These moments, often overlooked or dismissed as luck, may very well be the brushstrokes of God on the canvas of our existence. Lewis would argue that these coincidences are not random at all, but are imbued with purpose, meticulously woven into the fabric of our lives by a loving Creator. They serve as reminders that our stories are not solitary tales, but part of a grand, interconnected narrative where every character, every event, plays a role in the unfolding divine drama. In recognizing these divine fingerprints in our lives, we're invited to look beyond the surface, to perceive the deeper connections and the guiding hand of God in our journey. This perspective encourages us to trust in the flow of our lives, to remain open to the unexpected, and to find comfort in the knowledge that, even in the chaos, there is a hidden order, a divine plot that we are part of. By embracing the providential nature of these happy coincidences, we allow ourselves to be more attuned to the possibilities that God lays before us, to be more willing to follow the leads He provides, and to be more aware of the continuous dialogue between our desires and His will. Drawing upon the deep well of C.S. Lewis's thought, our fifth topic explores the transformative power of trust in God, especially during times of uncertainty and change. Lewis often spoke of faith as a journey through shadowed valleys and sunlit peaks, with trust in God serving as our guiding light. In the midst of life's tumult, a profound peace can envelop us, a quietude that defies the chaos of our circumstances. This peace, Lewis might argue, is a tangible sign of God's presence and a reminder of His promise to lead us through the storms. It's in the stillness of our hearts, and the quiet trust in God's sovereignty, that we often find the strength to endure and the courage to embrace the unfolding chapters of our story. This tranquility is not born from an absence of trouble, but from an abiding confidence in the One who holds our days in His hands. It's a peace that, as Lewis would say, passes all understanding, a serene assurance that, no matter how the plot twists, the author of our faith is with us, guiding each step. Embracing this quietude of trust involves surrendering our need for control, releasing our grip on the pen with which we try to write our own stories. It means finding rest in the knowledge that, though we may not understand each turn of the page, there is a purpose in every line, a reason for every pause. In this posture of trust, we open ourselves to the transformative work God desires to do within us. We allow Him to pen His will in our lives, leading us not only to a place of peace amidst the storm, but also to a deeper relationship with Him. It's here, in the quietude of trust, that we are truly prepared for the changes God is weaving into our narrative. In the spirit of C.S. Lewis, we've journeyed through the landscapes of awakening, suffering, longing, providence, and trust, each path revealing signs that God is at work, reshaping our story. Lewis, with his profound understanding of the human and divine narrative, reminds us that our lives are not mere collections of random events, but integral chapters in a grander story authored by God. As we reflect on the signs of God's transformative work in our lives, the quiet awakenings, the purpose within suffering, the unquenchable longings, the serendipitous encounters, and the peace that comes from trust, we are invited to see ourselves as characters in a divine play, with roles to play and lines to speak that contribute to the unfolding of God's great narrative. This journey of discovery does not end here. It continues each day, with every heartbeat and breath, as we live out the story God is writing for us. We are called not just to be passive observers, but active participants, co-creators with God in the ongoing creation of our lives and the world around us. Let us, then, embrace our part in this grand narrative with courage and hope, trusting in the author who knows the end from the beginning. May we be attentive to the subtle signs of His guidance, open to the transformative power of His pen, and ready to step into the new chapters He is crafting for us. In the words of Lewis, there are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. As we move forward, may we carry this assurance in our hearts, looking to the future with anticipation for the wondrous story God continues to write in and through us.